Nu? Je moet even op het scherm denken, je deelt nu je webcam. Ja. Ja, je deelt nu PowerPoint view, niet dat komt nu. Ja. Cool.
Okay. So it's 3 o'clock now. Hello, welcome everyone to this first international Orangebeard webinar. In September last year, we held our first webinar, but that was only in Dutch. And based on the feedback we got and the growing interest from outside the Netherlands, we decided to do all our future webinars in English. Another difference with the September webinars is that we will show now live the product with demo. And last webinar in September, we had slides only. I'm very pleased that we still have such a large number of attendees, which shows me that we have taken the right direction with our solution. Before we begin the webinar, I have two points which I want to tell you. This webinar will be recorded, so everyone who will attend the webinar, but also the people who were, not able to join the webinar will get a recording. And at the end, our system, by the way, they don't have an audio support. So if you have any questions during my presentation or the demo, please put them in the chat. And some of the questions we will try to answer in between, or otherwise we will answer them at the end in a Q&A session. If there are questions we can't answer during this time period, or we don't have the answer right away, we will send them in an email after the webinar, together with the link of the recording. So today's speakers, we have two speakers today. My fellow speaker is Tom Heinsberger. He is working for our launching partner, Pregus. Tom is a very experienced consultant with over 15 years of experience in the testing and test automation profession. And during this time, he helped many clients with their test automation challenges. Tom was, with his experience, at the basis of Orangebeard. And as a consultant, he still plays a major role in our product development with all his knowledge. Tom will show you later on during this webinar the product live in a demo. Now, my name is Remco Kwinkleberg. I'm a sales manager at Orangebeard, and like Tom, I've been around in the testing world for a while. I love innovative solutions and flexible companies with drive and vision, and those were the reasons for me to join Orangebeard. Now, look at the agenda for today. We have divided the agenda in three main areas. So first of all, we will tell you a little bit about the functionalities which are currently in our Orangebeard product. Secondly, we will give you a brief overview of the development we are working on now and for the next 6 months. So a little bit about the roadmap. And of course, at the end, we will have some time to answer all your questions. So a little bit about the company. Maybe some people who joined the September webinar, they know this already. I will give now a short introduction for the people who haven't been able to join the September webinar. So the company is originated, let's say, in 2018, and it all started with a group of consultants who were gathering together on a regular basis, having fun together, but also sharing experience about testing and test automation. And some of the findings were that they see that the market was changing a little bit, also with the new kinds of development, with the continuous delivery in the projects. So there was they concluded that they see in the market that everyone wants to test automatically. and there was a big need to test earlier in the cycle, earlier in the process, and they want to test more, and overall they want to test faster. There was still a challenge for all the companies to do this while keeping up and keeping an overview and control of what they are doing. Putting a lot of automation in place, that's easy, but can you still control it? So, and also the many different test automation tools we use, with each their own reporting format, doesn't make our life easier. Yeah. So I've been for a while now in testing, and I can say that some of these findings sound pretty familiar for me, and I hope it's the same for you. If you are for a while around in testing, I think it will. But these findings, they form the basis of Orangebeard, because they decided to start their own company and to build their own software, helping companies with the challenges they face with the findings I mentioned earlier. So at the end of 2018, we started this company, Orangebeard, and we implemented some of the ideas. We started, of course, to design and to build in 2018 and 19. At that time, we also, it became a little bit more formal, so we needed a new name. Now, for a lot of people, Orangebeard will be a funny name. The process of getting the name, by the way, if I explain this and the whole process, it will take more than the whole webinar. So you get a short version. With Orangebeard, we have a kind of relation with that we are a cool product from the Netherlands. So let's keep it by that. Yeah. 2019, we also started with some POCs with let's say befriended companies, and they helped us shaping the product. And in 2020, we started with our first customers in the Netherlands. And now it's 2021, and you are now part of the, let's say, first international webinar. So we also try to sell now Orangebeard outside the Netherlands, because we see that there is, and we hear that there is a lot of interest also from outside the Netherlands. So the first part of the agenda was the current functionality. So we have, as I mentioned, we have converted some of the ideas into usable software now, and let's take a look what the ideas are and what the areas are in functional areas in Orangebeard. So we have divided Orangebeard into 4 functional or logical components, that being the test results, control room, the security scan, and the auto test pilot. Now, 2 of them will be demoed by Tom in the next minutes. That will be the test results area, where we simply store the execution results of all the automated tests that you have linked to Orangebeard in real time. And that can be automated tests from a developer machine, a unit test, but it can also be a fully automated end-to-end integration test. Yeah? And additional to the test results, we have the control room. And in the control room, we offer the dashboarding functionality to gain some insight into what your tests look like. So now I will change the presentation to Tom's machine, and Tom will show you live the test results in control room in Orangebeard.
Yeah, go. You should be able to see my screen now. I'm going to log into Orangebeard. Let's hope my session didn't time out. It did. So when we log in, we always land in an overview page, which gives you a simple overview of how your project is doing. We're looking at the pet clinic project right now, which is a demo application. You can select the product you wish to view from the project drop-down. The overview shows you some statistics about your project, the different test runs that you have defined, the latest runs that have been running, and some other info, reports and test sets that you've been going through. whilst this is a nice overview, it doesn't really give you much insight in the actual results of your testing. That's why we created the control room that gives you a deeper insight in the results of all your test sets. So Orangebeard works from the idea that there is a set of test sets that you can execute, and each test set has test runs of the same set or subset of a set. For each of these test runs, we can see some information like how many tests passed or failed, and what was the reason for tests to pass or fail. So for example, in our total, most of the issues we find in this project are automation issues, and we are not really finding any bugs or very little bugs in the product itself. So this gives you some insight in why your tests are failing, and may help you start the discussion on where to actually improve your test set. So we have this for the different types of test runs. We have component tests, we have some unit tests, we have some UI tests, integration tests, etc. in this project. So we have some extra views on that. First, I want to take you to the trends view, which just shows you how your test sets are doing over time. Are you improving or are you declining in quality, and why is that? And the third view we are offering right now is the pyramid view, which is a nice way to start a conversation on how your tests are spread over the spectrum of all the tests. So do you have a lot of UI tests, or a lot of component tests or integration tests, or are you doing most of your testing in unit testing? And we also show a distribution of tests on duration, as it may be good practice to have more tests that are quicker than to have a lot of tests that take a long time. The axes in these views are dynamic. So if your tests are running from let's say 2 to 10 minutes, then that will be the scale of these views instead of milliseconds as you see now. How we determine if something is a UI or an integration or a component or a unit test is quite simply by providing labels, metadata to the test sets that you run, so that Orangebeard knows how to classify them. So all this information comes from test results, and test results are pretty straightforward. They are pretty much always the same type of objects. A test has an exit state. It can pass or fail or throw an exception, or it can be skipped. It has some logging, some output, and most of the time it has a name and a run it's part of. So in test results, we see all the results coming in. Right now, what you see is a large collection of all the test runs with all the results that we see right here. And what is important to know is, the results come in real time. So as soon as your test set starts to run, your test results start to come in. So you can actually have a live view of the test sets that are running at some point in time. And that gives you the opportunity to immediately start analyzing the results of your test run, or maybe even quickly decide if it's worth to continue testing. So if a test fails, then the auto-analysis will see if it has already seen this failure before, and if you have classified this before. So if you have a new issue that has never been seen before, it will be an issue to investigate. And if you investigate the issue and you classify it as this is a system issue, we are missing a backend service somewhere, or this is a product bug, or this is an automation issue, I made a mistake in my automation, or maybe I didn't update my automation accordingly. Then if the same or almost the same issue pops up again, then the automatic analysis will classify it for you. And that will save you time analyzing issues that may have occurred before. And it also gives a nice insight in the origin of your issues. One of our launching customers, we saw that there was a feeling amongst testers that most issues were caused by backend services being unavailable. And Orangebeard has helped them to quantify that and start a discussion with operations on how to get those environments more stable, which in the end saved them time in running their tests. So test results, what do they look like? So if I click on the field test right here, then we can look at the test that is run. This is a fitness test, so it logs HTML output tables in this case. And this test has failed because it was looking for Remco's name in a list of people. We have a screenshot of the test. Well, Remco is not here, so I guess it's okay that it failed. And we can classify this as being a system issue or a product bug, depending on what it actually is. We can do this for, like you saw, fitness tests that give HTML output, but when we go to the unit tests, they're a bit more technical than an exception in the unit test will give you stack trace. But the way you go through the test results and read the logs is the same for any kind of test. We're able to connect most test tools in 1 or 2 days if you've never done them before. And we hope to be even quicker when we get more experience in connecting more tools. Right now there's connectors for fitness, for JUnit, for NUnit, for Jest, some more JavaScript frameworks. I'm not going to mention them all. Ranorex has its own logger that sends Ranorex output, including screenshots and everything that happens to Orangebeard, so that you can use it to do your test analysis. So that's the test results view for now. Back to the slides, I guess.
Okay, Tom, thank you very much. Let me share my screen again. So I hope you get a good picture now of what we can do with the test results and the control room in Orangebeard. I will take you now to the third part of a functional area in Orangebeard, the security scan. And with the security scan, we offer you, let's say, a daily view on the possible vulnerabilities in your software without having to spend any, let's say, any extra effort. Now, how does that work? So what you see usually in the projects is that people are doing already some security testing in the projects. So on the left side, you see that they are using in the red circle, and they are using static code testing, or most of the time the developers are doing that. And tools we see often are like Fortify, VeraCode, Coverty, but it's still only static code checking. Yeah, and then on the right side, you see a pen testing, and typically a pen tester will be hired by a company, let's say every half a year, maybe once a year, to do a pen test, and he does a lot of different things, and at the end, you know, they will create a nice report about some security issues in your application. But can that be done more efficiently? Because what will the pen tester do? The first thing he probably will do is he will create some functional scenarios, making use of login credentials, going through your application, and trying to find some security issues, what we call the low-hanging fruit. Is that necessary? I don't think so. We have those scenarios already. We have them in place. They are our functional automated test scenarios. So what we can do is we can reuse those scenarios and run them every day when you run a new or you run your test scenario. So the moment of let's say testing your security will be let's say earlier in the process. So you can start it immediately when you run your automated test scenario. You don't have to wait for the pen tester, and you also have earlier an idea about security issues in your application, so you can solve them earlier. And when you solve them earlier, you know, there are no other developers continuing making the same mistake in the next 5 months. Yeah. So typically we do that by putting an extra security scan while running your automated test scenarios. But Tom will show you in the next demonstration. Let me give the view to Tom. No, it's next time. Let me find a
simpler way to do it. Okay. Yeah. So we're back at the overview page, and in the same project, the pet clinic project, we also run automated security scans. The security scan, it's one of the buttons on the left, gives us an overview of security runs that have run. So what we do is try to leverage the fact that a lot of projects also already have extended regression tests on web applications or on web APIs. What we do is lead these regression tests through a security proxy server, which right now we are using OWASP ZAP. We're not building our own proxy, and we're working on connecting other proxies such as Burp Suite, so that you have some freedom in how you want to arrange your security scans. Right now we're using ZAP, and if a nightly regression run is executed on the pet clinic, then ZAP will be started afterwards to start a security scan. This is an active scan, so we do the passive scanning first. We look at the output that the regression set has generated, and we build a context based on what we're doing. So using the regression set, we know a few things to correlate with session data. We know where the inputs are in the application that are actually used, so that ZAP can do an active scan on the application. So we have some security run results here, and what this shows is the number of alerts and when it has run on what environment. So if we look at that, then we get an overview of what has been found in this scan. And in this scan, it has found a number of issues, and we display them in order of risk. So high risks are displayed first, medium risk, and low risk and informationals. And as you see, some striked through issues at the bottom of the list, as we have deemed these to be false positives. The issue with active scanning is that you get a lot of false positives that you can identify, and Orangebeard will remember that you've identified these issues as false positives, and it will ignore them in new results, so that your overview is always up to date. So let's say we have XSS protection not enabled, then Orangebeard will show you a description of what the problem is, some hints on the instances that it has found this issue on. And it will do so for any of the issues it finds. This information is provided from the reports that are sent to Orangebeard, so in this case the ZAP report, and also the references that are displayed to help you get started fixing these issues. You can mark a whole category of issues as false positives, but you can all instances as false positives, so that you have a good overview of what is actually what actually needs work in your environment. So that's for the security scan. What we are still working on is views that show you the deltas between different runs, because of the number of issues can be quite large, and it can be quite hard to keep an overview on what is actually happening if you run these tests a lot. So it might be interesting to see what has changed in the last run when compared to the last run. So new issues, they might need some more attention than issues that are there for a longer period of time. And it might also be nice to have a visual presentation when you're fixing issues that you are going in the right direction. So that's for the security scan.
So thank you again, Tom. So you've seen now what is currently available in Orangebeard, but we are still working on some very exciting stuff, and I want to show you that in the next couple of slides. We have achieved already a lot with Orangebeard, but we're not finished yet, and we will, of course, continue to improve and expand this great solution. Let's go to the roadmap. We have 4 main areas on the roadmap. The main part, or the first part I will mention, is the new UI. Based on some feedback we got during the POCs, we will get a complete new look and feel. And there will be some improvements, of course, for user friendliness. And as a special wish from the developers, we also will have the so-called dark theme. And we will change the look and feel a little bit in different roles, because different roles have different, in an organization, have all their own need for information. I will show you some examples in the next slides. Another change we will make is that there will be a kind of pipeline, will be the entry point for the test results. So developers, most of the time they are interested in what is the status of a pipeline. So you will see that back in the new dashboards. So here I have a couple of mock-ups of the 3 different views we have defined already. So it will be the developer view, the first thing. You see that for example here in the bottom, you see that they have a focus on the latest pipelines, but also there is a focus on commits, because that is of interest for a developer. When you look for a tester has more a wish to, or a desire to see, let's say, the outstanding number of issues. What are my failed tests? So he will get a complete different view, and of course he can also check directly the status of the pipelines, just like the developer can. And a manager will have more an overview, maybe over the projects, which is coming in the future. Total number of test runs. Maybe he wants to see a little bit information about the project members. So based on your interest, you will get a different login, a different dashboard in front of you. So you can access the desired information faster. And you see it. This was also the black theme in the mockups. So in the control room, we will get the trend analysis, so that you can see the progress in your project. We will have the added values of test cases and some heat maps, so that we can relate test cases to certain parts of code. Now, within the security scan, we will introduce a timeline so that you eventually can see or get insight into whether issues are being added or whether you are resolving issues. And the security scan will get a more dashboard-like layout, so that you need less clicks to get to the information you want to. And in addition to catching the low-hanging fruit, what we are doing now with the ZAP scanner, we will also offer the possibility to extend the dynamic security tests with extra web app security scanners. And the results of those scanners, of course, will also be presented in Orangebeard. Now, next is the auto test pilot. There is a separate chapter on the roadmap, but I think it's better to go to the next slide, where I will explain a bit more in detail about the auto test pilot. Because the auto test pilot is currently the largest and most important expansion to Orangebeard. It's called our CI/CD accelerator. So auto test pilot, you see it here as the 4th part in the Orangebeard overview. We are losing a lot of time at the moment by running all the regression tests after making some change in the code. And is it necessary? It costs a lot of time to run all those regression tests. That's one of the main questions why we started with the Autotest pilot. Do we need to run them for every change? For a big change, maybe yes. For a little change, like a README file, it's not necessary. And we personally, we love test automation, but we don't want to execute test cases for no reason. Yeah? So we build this by making use of machine learning and artificial intelligence, and Orangebeard will look only for the test that will be relevant for the specific code change, so that the testing time will be significantly reduced without any compromising on the quality. So this picture will explain a little bit how we will make the right decision in what the optimized test set for a change will be. So Orangebeard will collect all kinds of metadata, and we want to make the choice, what do we need to test and in the available time we have. So sometimes we have only, let's say, 15 minutes to do some tests to see if the quality of your build is okay. Yeah, and we want to be able to make that kind of decisions. So with the information we gather, we will be able to create a subset to test those changes. And in the subset, we will also make prioritization of the test cases. So the most important test cases, or the ones who have the highest chance of failure, will be executed as first. So for example, if you put the most important test at the first case, and that one fails already, or the second one fails, maybe you can break the pipeline already and stop the process, stop the rest of the testing, and start fixing your code directly. Yeah. So we will also look to to make the decision. We will look to the change itself. So we will get some information about the change. Is it only the README file, or is it something changed in the core of our application? Yeah. So that kind of information will let us make different decisions. Yeah. We will also look to patterns. So are there test cases that always fail together? Or if the first one, for example, in a group fails, we know that the rest also fails. So if then in reality the first one fails, we don't have to execute number 2, 3, and 4, for example. We can also look at who made a change. So it will be quite a difference if a junior who started last week checked in some code, or if the senior developer who worked already for 6 years on this code and never made big mistakes checks in the code. So all that kind of information will feed us, will feed our machine learning Autotest pilot to make that ideal subset. Now, how does that look like in a real project? So in this slide, you see that we've put some logos in there. Like for example, on the right, we put there Fitness as one of the available testing tools. But what is good for you to know that Orangebeard is an open platform, and we interface with any other testing tool, any other version control system than GitHub or GitLab or any other CI tool. So, but to put all those logos in here makes the slide even more crowded than it is right now. So usually what you see is that there will be in the version control system, there will be a request pulled, or there will be a commit of new code, and then the CI tool will start or running a new pipeline. And that tool, in this case Jenkins, he wants to know what kind of tests he needs to run to test the quality of that pipeline. But of course Jenkins doesn't know that, and he will ask Orangebeard the question, please, Orangebeard, what kind of test cases, which test cases do I need to run to test this change? then Orangebeard will, of course, doesn't know the answer right away. So what he will do, he will check with the version control system what kind of change it was. Was it only the file? Was it a change in the core? We will collect all other kinds of information. We will combine all the information with historical data we already have, and then we come up with that subset with prioritized in prioritized order of test cases, and he will pass that on to the CI tool, and the CI tool on its own, he will start the test run. So he will give an instruction to all the different test automation tools to start executing their tests. And of course, as you've seen before in the demo with Tom, all the results of the test cases can be given to Orangebeard. And Orangebeard, with that results, can of course, how do you say that, give a judgment if the pipeline needs to be, what the quality of the pipeline is. Does it need to be stopped, or do we need to continue with can we continue with the pipeline? So, for example, you have a subset of 50 test cases, and the second one of the most important fails. Maybe that is a reason to break the pipeline already. So you don't have to wait for the execution of the rest of the test cases. You can immediately start with fixing your code. Yeah? So that will save a lot of time. First of all, you don't have to execute all the regression tests, only a subset, and even when something in the subset fails, or the important ones, we can stop directly the pipeline. I see that Tom is looking.
And as an addition to that, you can also fine-tune when to break or not break your release pipeline. So, for example, you could define a quality gate that says we can actually have failing tests before release, as long as these tests are, one, not deemed very important, and second, if they are not analyzed as product bugs or automation issues, but they may be analyzed as being system issues, so that you may accept some level, some margin of failure in your regression test sets because of things you already know from the past that can actually fail at some point, which is not something you would want to do, but it gives you the flexibility to create some sort of quality gates in your based on your test results, other than just on the quality of code.
Okay, thank you for the addition, Tom. So in the next slide, you've seen this circle already in Tom's presentation or Tom's demo. We have included now the use of the auto test pilot. So you see the little icon here in the collect source control button or area. So we have the integration, of course, with the source control and with the version control, CI server. And of course, the results will be shown again in Orangebeard. And we can continue this again. This is a continuous, let's say, process. Okay, some key takeaways from this webinar. I would like, So what we see is that more and more test activities are automated, but testing still remains a bottleneck for the rapid delivery of the software. And we also see that due to the automation, there is an enormous growth in test cases. So usually there was a person called a test manager who gives a little bit direction into which test case to execute and so on. But you see that in a lot of projects, there is no test manager anymore. So to keep the overview, it's you can use Orangebeard to guide you and to give you insight in what needs to be executed for the change. You can take back the control and accelerate your testing, your test analysis and delivery of the software as a whole. So some numbers. So by recognizing what we've seen during the POC, so by recognizing and classifying the findings in the test results, we are able to save up to 50% on your analysis time. And by reducing the necessary tests, you can achieve a saving of 40% of your test time. And when you also integrate it with your version control, we think that you can make starting choices that speed up the releases times by up to 80%. So those are my takeaways for this session. If you think Orangebeard can be valuable in your organization, if you want to have an extended demo, if you want to start, for example, a pilot in your organization or work with us, please, here are my contact details. Contact me by email or by phone. If you want to stay informed about the development of Orangebeard, please follow us on our socials. Now it's time, I think, for the Q&A. Tom, have you checked the chat on the questions coming in?
Yeah, I've also I'm enabling the public chat now. So if there's any questions, please feel free to also post them there. Some questions I've seen during the webinar that I've tried to answer as much as I could. As one question was, can we connect to SpecFlow? The answer is yes, we can. Another one that was already answered during the slides, and there's that's the same type of question. Looking through it, there's a question if we can have an overview across multiple projects. Yes, we are working on that in the new UI. We are working on providing the possibility to also have a view over multiple projects. Right now we are looking at one project at a time, but we can imagine that in the management view it might be welcome to be able to see how multiple projects are doing in one dashboard. Other question I've seen is, can we record manual test results in Orangebeard? The answer is that right now we cannot, and the reason is quite simple. The main focus of Orangebeard is being able to improve your automation and make it more effective by learning from previously executed tests that we can repeat. Repeating manual tests is quite hard and not very nice thing to do in a DevOps pipeline. So right now there is no support for manual testing. I'm not seeing more questions right now. And a question now comes in, can we use Orangebeard without Autotest Pilot? Yes, you can. Without Autotest Pilot, Orangebeard of course gives you a way to record all your test results, not only stuff that runs in the pipeline, but also tests that run locally. And I think that starting early using Orangebeard, even if you are not ready for anything like the Autotest Pilot yet, it gives you the opportunity to build up a set of data that you can do analysis on. Having all the test results in one place can help. Having an overview in one place can help. Being able to have a uniform way to go through test results, regardless if it's a unit test or an end-to-end test or a UI test or an API test, that might add value. So yes, you can use Orangebeard without Autotest Pilot. Is there really any clients of you who have large numbers of test cases and suffering the execution time? Yes, we have. What we see sometimes is that you have an organization where, let's say, 60 or 70 releases are pushed to production on a daily basis, or maybe even more, but we haven't seen environments that are bigger than that yet. And you have a regression test that, when fully executed, takes like 20 or 25 minutes. That is going to clutter up your build pipelines at some point. One, there's waiting time. Two, it's infrastructure that is in use while it should not be in use. And of course, the main problem here is, in many cases, if regression tests are taking too long, then maybe you can win a lot of things by moving those tests to different types of testing, making quicker tests, smaller tests. But in some environments, we haven't seen the opportunity to do so. Sometimes because there is a demand for tests in a full acceptance environment, or mocking is not in place, then it can help to speed up testing. So yes, we do see we do see a bottleneck in waiting times on regression tests or end-to-end tests or the complete test sets. I see a question on the model, so on-premise or cloud or another. At this point, we are offering Orangebeard as software as a service. So if you start with Orangebeard, you get a cloud environment that you can log into. That's your environment. It's not shared with any other customers, and it's only accessible for you. So it's a cloud solution right now.
So are there any other questions, Tom?
I haven't seen them. No.
Okay. So if there was one question, another question coming in regarding the slides. So if it's possible to receive the slides after the webinar, and yes, I can answer that one. We will send the slides in a PDF to all the attendees end of today or first thing tomorrow morning. Okay, this brings us then to the end of this webinar. If there are any other questions coming up, please send us an email and we will answer them as soon as possible. I would like to thank you all for your interest, and I hope you found it a valuable session. Thanks again, and have a nice continuation of your day. Bye-bye.